Hello, my name's Matthew Robert Payne. If you look up Matthew Robert Payne on Amazon, you'll find so many books that'll take you years to read. If you read 4 books a week, it would take you a year to read them. So I write on Christian themes, and I've got some experience in the Christian faith. So I want to talk to you a little bit about commanding angels. There's few people who teach on this, and some I agree with, some I don't agree with. Some seem truthful, some seem foolish, and so for years I've been seeing angels, and from time to time I'd been seeing like a couple of thousand of them lining each side of the road and just basically saying hello to me and waving at me, and wondered who they are. From time to time, I had not only angels but saints from heaven on earth saying hello, and I wondered what it was. And then one time a few years ago, um, I sensed 2,000 angels outside my house, and I was told that they were all commander angels, and those 2,000 angels were each commanders over 300 angels each. So although the 6 million angels were not manifesting, the 2,000 angels outside were manifesting to the state that I could sense they were there. So when I asked about them, I was told the commanding angels, and they had an army of 6 million angels. And they were standing there, and I wondered what was happening. Well, that's one thing I've found. I've only ever read one particular account of a person commanding angels before before the foolish person that I'll mention in a sec, and so I wondered why they were there, and asked the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit said, "They're there for you to command, send on a mission." And I went straight to Facebook, like fools we are. We go to man instead of going to the Holy Spirit for our knowledge. And I went on Facebook and I said, "Who do you know that has information or a video about commanding angels?" And people kept on popping up, Kat Kerr, Kat Kerr. And so I said, it's not helpful just to hear Kat Kerr. Kat Kerr's videos aren't labeled properly, so it probably doesn't have commanding angels on the title. Can you share me a video where she shares about commanding angels? And someone shared two messages, part one and part two. So I sat down for over two hours. One was an hour and a half, one was an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. 2.5 hours I spent watching these videos, commanding angels. I got to the last 10 minutes of the second video, and she said, "Now, you may think that I have strategy when it comes to commanding angels, and I'm telling you, I haven't. Like you see on a movie, you see generals around the board with like a landscape, and they're putting pins in the board and discussing strategy and how they're going to fight the war. I don't do that. I just give a command." And I was flabbergasted. I just wasted 2.5 hours of my time, and there was no answer in these videos. And she was supposed to be teaching on how to command angels. And I was so annoyed. I was so angry. And so at that, I said to the Holy Spirit, how do I command these angels? And the Holy Spirit said, you have to work out what sort of task you want 6 million angels to do and how to keep them busy. And I said, how do I do that? He said, you need to send a task and set up a flow diagram. If they do that, do this. If they do that, do this. And so I sat down for about half an hour and worked out a plan. I sent them to individually speak to every working girl, every prostitute in the world, and tell them that their answer can be found in Jesus. If they reach out to Jesus, he can bring them comfort, and he can talk to them and keep them encouraged. So both girls actively, willingly in prostitution, and girls that were trafficked and in prostitution, not by choice. And I sent out this message, and I had no way of verifying that that happened. The Holy Spirit had said not to look for evidence in the papers because or the news because I'll get discouraged, but just trust that when you give the command, it'll be over. So that happened, and I sent them off for about 3 months worth of work with my flow diagram. Kept them working for 3 months, like discipling the girls. And then about 2 weeks later, 2,000 angels turned up again. I said, the other angels are meant to be busy for, the angels are meant to be busy for 3 months. What are they back here for? And the Holy Spirit said, this is another 2,000. You did a good job with the others. They want another commandment. And so I did that. And that only happened a couple of times. And I realized, well, what I know is that the angels turn up when there's an assignment. And so I've never decided one day to command angels and commanded an angel or tried to command angels without the Holy Spirit being involved. And I don't know a lot about the subject, but I know that that's how it happened with me. And if you know my teaching, I don't profess to know everything about everything. I just speak plainly and honestly. Years later, I had a prophecy come through from a prophet who's very accurate, and he said that I was getting a promotion. God was going to bring new angels into my life, and there was going to be I was going to be introduced to the head of the angels. And I read that and got ready and went out, and I was going to catch a bus up to a shopping centre. And as I sat down to catch a bus, as I walked to the bus station, 2,000 angels were around again. And I sat down at the bus stop, and I noticed the presence next to me. I said, you're the angel that I was meant to meet. And he said, yeah. And I said, what's your name? He said, Jonathan. I said, that's David's a friend. That's a good name. And I said, you're in charge of these guys? And he said, yeah. I said, can I do something to prove that I really sent youth on an assignment? He said, sure. I said, there's an election in Australia in 3 days, and there's like a 3 or 4% margin in the polls that says that the Liberal Party aren't going to get in. I'd like the Liberal Party to come in because they've promised to update the stadiums, and we need stadiums. Because at that time I believed that we need stadiums for stadium revivals, and I think that's a false prophecy these days. But Anyway, the Liberal Party's like the Republican Party, so that's the party I preferred. And so I said, can you send your 6 million angels into people's dreams, and can they take on the appearance of each of the people dreaming's friends? And can you have them appear as a friend in a dream and have them talk to their friend about politics and say that you should really vote for the Liberal Party, and these are the reasons. So can you do that, appear as friends, and over the next 3 days, go into the voting people of Australia, the people at voting age, and appear 2 to 3 times as different friends of theirs, talking about how they should vote for the Liberal Party. And I forgot about that. I forgot about it, and the election was on the Saturday, and I might have voted, but I'm not sure I voted. But I didn't remember the election until the Sunday. Felt led to go to this cafe, and I was at this cafe having some cake and a coffee, and the news came on at the cafe, and they were saying that the Liberal Party have got like a Trump-like miracle, like a miracle election, a 4% swing in the vote, and they're calling it a Trump-like miracle. And it was around the 2016 election, and the Trump-like win in 2016 was like a miracle too, and so I knew that the angels had done their job, and that was different to Kat Kerr. That was strategy. That was using 6 million angels to speak to about 12 million people in Australia, and strategically over a number of nights do specific things, say specific things, and appear as specific friends of the people. And we achieved what we wanted to do. And later on, there was another country with an election that I wanted a certain leader in, and they had a 2 or 3% swing when I sent the angels over to do that. So there's 3 or 4 occasions. The first two were like I didn't know the results, but the second two, the two elections, was happened. So people asked me, was I going to send angels for the 2000 election for Trump? And I hadn't been led. The Holy Spirit hadn't led me to do that. So that's my take on commanding angels. Kat Kerr teaches that everyone can have 100 angels and they can command angels, and she teaches that if you see a cloud in the sky, the 100 angels. And I don't believe in that prophecy. I believe only sons of God can command angels, and I've got 4 angels in my life, and I have a hard time keeping them busy, let alone 100 angels all the time commanding on things. I'll give you some more insight. So you may think I've got no respect for Kat Kerr. She's got her lane. Let her travel in her lane, but I've got no respect for her. One time I invited a whole witches' coven into my house. I was deceived, and I thought I was going to start a revival among witches. And I invited a whole witches' coven into my house. And at that time, Michael the Archangel turned up, and I've met him plenty of times. And he turned up in my house, and he wouldn't leave. He'd been there for 2 or 3 days, and I decided to ask my counsellor. I had like a high-level counsellor that I saw once a week, and I decided to use my booking to ask her a question about why Michael was there. And when I told her that Michael and the angel over Australia were in my house and they wouldn't leave, I asked her why they were there, and she said, I'll ask the Lord. And she said, the first thing I want to say is, Michael isn't there and the angel over Australia isn't there for you to command them to do anything. And I said, I wouldn't think of doing that. So don't worry about that. But a lot of people would. That was her point. A lot of people would. And then she said the reason they're in your house is they've got other angels with them and you need a lot of protection at the moment and you're in grave danger. She didn't say that the witches in my house were going to cause me trouble, and I ended up being admitted into a psych ward for what they did to me. But she did say that they weren't there to be commanded, and so I have got not a lot of experience, but I've had success with commanding angels. A lot of people talk about commanding angels. I've got receipts, and so they're my two stories about commanding angels. I hope you enjoyed that. Jeremy, who I know is listening, hope you enjoyed those stories, and God bless.